Hello, thanks everyone for coming. Okay, good evening everyone and welcome to our weekly webinar series for our LIFES program. I'm Larissa, your host for today. Participants, I urge you to stay muted and to keep your cameras off to help the facilitation of today's session. For those who are joining us for the first time, our LIFES program stands for Launchpad for Innovation in Food and Environment Sustainability. And here we explore the possibilities for social impact and social good in the food sustainability space. In our program, we focus on 4 pillars, namely food security, food waste, food production, and food culture. Today's session is brought to you by GC, also is known as Joint Initiative for Social System Innovation, a joint collaboration between NUS Enterprise and BOP Hub. Today, we have Benjamin from LightBlue here to share with us the innovative solution in food waste prevention. LightBlue is a for-profit social enterprise with a vision to reconcile sustainability with business excellence. It has gained unique expertise in food waste prevention through 8 years of relentless effort. Its approach is holistic, human-centered, and cross-disciplinary, coupled with the right technology. It designs and implements solutions to cut operational expenses, increase employees' efficiency and loyalty, and improve the reputation of organizations operating more responsibly. It has developed fit food waste monitoring technology and methodology to minimize food waste for international hotel groups, restaurants, international organizations, government agencies, and higher education, as well as supporting the pledge on food waste certification and benchmarking system. As the founder and managing director of LightBlue Environmental Consulting, Benjamin is an international speaker, guest lecturer in Culinary and Business School, counselor at Franco-Thai Chamber of Commerce, solution designer of Fit Food Waste Monitoring Tech, co-designer of the Pledge on Food Waste Certification and Benchmarking System, and a certified trainer for Global Sustainable Tourism Council. Without further ado, may I invite Benjamin to share more with us his exciting journey at LightBlue. Benjamin, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Larissa, and thank you all of the team behind this initiative for inviting me today to join this great conversation, and welcome to all participants. Let me share my screen. Tell me if the video and the audio is working as it should.
Yeah, we can see your slide.
Perfect. Okay. So first, before diving in the topic, just a bit of history behind that explain how we are. Why am I here today speaking to you? I started a bit like randomly into even like sustainability in the hospitality sector, which was my first position in 2008 when I joined Accor as a coordinator for a certification program called Green Globe across the portfolio of Novotels in Asia. I was so basically taking this approach of holistic sustainability solutions for hospitality, from energy to water to waste to chemicals to local community. After that, I became a consultant for the UN ILO on greening the hotel industry. And while I was in Thailand and the Philippines, and while I was performing those sustainability audits, I realized that there was actually no attention given to food waste. We are in 2013, and I am shocked by the amount of food that I see in those bins. And I am shocked to see that when I'm asking stupid questions, there is literally no answers from a professional in that industry. So question would be, how much food do you waste? where is it coming from, when is it happening, what is going to the bin, and how much does it cost you. And this combination of factor really like puzzled me, and I started to dig a bit more and realized that actually it was a topic that was not covered. There was no benchmark, there was no article, there was no solutions apparently, because it was not even a concern, it was not even a topic. And when I realized that there was no solution, and in realizing the impact of food waste, I was shocked and again puzzled, and that really like kind of pushed me in trying to find solutions, trying to understand the issue better and develop new solutions. So my first actual project in 2013 was in a big hotel where I convinced the general manager to let me try a solution, a system that I had designed at the back of his hotel. So I did so for 6 months, where we're trying to record every single piece of food that was going to the bin to answer those questions. And after 6 months of trials and errors and adaptation, results were actually very, very encouraging, but actually it was way too early. And I realized that not only timing is just fundamental in any venture, and that yeah, I didn't expect the journey to be that long and that difficult, but definitely worth it. And along the line, throughout those past 7-8 years of practice, we came to develop different type of solutions, which I will walk you through today to give you a sense. How do we basically what was the thought process, and that explain how did we end up, which was not even an intention at the beginning, how did we end up being professional food waste prevention, I would say players, or as we call it, food waste hackers. That's my jargon. So over 8 years, we designed something around 45 projects in 10 different countries. Last time we checked, which was quite a few years back, we had helped our customers to save more than 1 million kilos of food, around $2 to $3 million equivalent in savings, and a very large environmental impact that is associated with the prevention of food waste. So this is to give you an overview. Those are the type of partners that we have been working with. As Larissa mentioned, initially we were exclusively in the hospitality sector, hotels. Then about 2-3 years ago, we started to work with restaurants, then with catering companies, and now we're working more and more with higher education, with government agencies, consulting firms, and independent consultants, for which we are providing different type of solutions that are then applied in their respective regions. We so to further elaborate on why food actually became such an important topic, and this is something which I think is quite interesting. When we zoom back 2000, there were only 8 what they call at the time Millennium Development Goals. And there was actually only one that was really focusing on the environmental sustainability. What I find interesting is that this shift from 2015 with the SDGs that you're very familiar with, 17 of them, and between 6 to 7 that are actually on the topic of environmental sustainability or related to it, I think, which reflects the fact that there is a broader level of awareness and realization that well, we cannot sustain any human activity if we don't really take care of our natural habitat. Interestingly as well, this I love this visual from the Stockholm Resilience Institute that shows that actually food is the element that is connecting the 17 SDGs from the biosphere level to the society level to the economy. And that, to me, explain why much more, I would say, why food requires much more effort and attention and a shift in terms of how we produce, how we distribute, how we consume, and how we dispose of food is absolutely necessary. I would like to share as well from I would say, a financial impact sort of perspective. This is an interesting study from the Boston Consulting Group that was published in 2018 that shows that food waste, they called it the 1.5 trillion problem. But at the same time, they called it 700 billion opportunity. The 1.5 trillion problem means that we're on a trajectory with business as usual to reach this phenomenal amount of money that is lost because of food waste at a global level. By 2030, so estimated it will reach 1.5 trillion. But the positive side of it is that there are multiple opportunities that are financially extremely interesting related to food waste and food waste prevention or transformation. Here, what I would like to point out is, out of those 5 key, I would say, angles that are presented to help to address the issue of food waste, awareness is on the top. And awareness is something that we realize as well after a couple of mission or implementation, is that the understanding about the topic of sustainability in general, but food waste in particular, basically for people that we're working with to understand why food waste is an issue is just crucial. We are systematically starting with this, the why, because if the why is not clear, the how will be much, much more difficult. People, and in particular, those that are in charge of implementing change within the organization, will either be resisting change or will do so, but only if they are being checked on what they are supposed to do. Buy-in will be very low, and the expected results will be much lower than what they could be. So I like this overall perspective that highlights that in particular there is a serious financial, I would say, incentive in tackling food waste. For us, beside the big picture that is specifically, at the global level, what I would like to share with you is specifically the type of solutions that we have developed, in particular, down the food supply chain. So after production, then you have manufacturing and distribution, then you have wholesalers and retailers such as supermarket, but you have as well food services. And food services is where we have been putting most of our efforts on and gain, I would say, pretty unique knowledge. There is an important aspect as well to share. Here we go. You all heard about this statistic that approximately 1/3 of all the food that is produced globally is lost or wasted. Some other reports show that it may actually be higher than that, more towards 40%, which is an enormous amount of all the food that we're producing, when we know that there is approximately 850 million people that goes hungry to bed. And at the same time, all this food that is wasted represent 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions, which is a serious chunk of it. This is approximately 2 to 3 times more than the entire airline industry combined. Another interesting aspect, which was one of the drivers for us to dive into this topic, was when we realized that there is approximately only 3% of all food services or food service professionals that are actually monitoring food waste. That means that they rely on assumptions that they are doing a great job, that there is not an issue. And by not monitoring, obviously you don't manage as well as you would if you had clear perspective about what is lost or wasted in your organization. And that means as well why there is such a slow pickup and such I would say this lack of initiative from the private sector to try to address this issue, because they are underestimated its impact. And that includes as well what is the financial impact for the organization. What we see typically for restaurants and hotels, catering companies, the cost of food waste, once you implement detailed monitoring system and analysis, and that you can put a price tag on the amount of food that is wasted using different methodology, including different pricing methods, depending on if it is lost at the storage level, at the preparation level, or if it is lost from the consumer. But all in all, it points out that the cost of food waste represent between 6 to up to 14% of their revenue, which is a massive amount of money that is basically going down the drain. And I would say, again, like a very strong incentive for private sector players to address that issue. So what are some of the existing solutions that we have been developing? We spent, again, those past 7-8 years trying to find, okay, what sort of solutions could really have an impact. And I don't believe in one size fit all. I don't believe that technology, for instance, will solve us all, or that you can find, one silver bullet that will solve all those issues, because food waste is a complex issue that requires elaborated solutions, and those solutions must be agile and must be adaptable depending on the context. So, but if I could summarize, we have three main type of solutions that are applicable. So we have everything related to capacity building and consulting work. We have technology, in particular technology about food waste monitoring systems, and we have certification system, which as well I will present. So if we start, for instance, with the technology, so we have been developing something that is called the Food Intel Tech. FIT, originally, it's funny because that was the really like the first building block of the entire methodology that I tried from the very beginning. This methodology was just a color-coded way to identify the type of food waste on which we built and grew our different type of solutions. But the monitoring system was already important, but really is becoming central in everything that we do in order to measure where are we starting from and where are we going? Are we helping to reduce food waste, by how much? And this type of data in general are just fundamental, because without data, you are basically hoping for the best and implementing change, but you can't really measure if this change really has a serious impact. So the first version of FIT was basically paper, pen, and the information were manually input into an Excel. Then once we started to have more complex system in place, we started to have more complex Excel spreadsheets. Then those spreadsheets, we moved them online, where we had our first version of FIT. But still, for a very long time, most of our partners were actually recording food waste in their different locations, because that's what we call the recording points. So let's say an island resort, you cannot take only one location, measure food waste and say, okay, this is where we are. Island resorts typically that we work with, let's say in Thailand or in the Maldives, they would have multiple locations where food is either stored or prepared or served or disposed of. And if you want to have a comprehensive understanding of the real situation, you need to have multiple recording points. And this is how the technology has been developed in order to be flexible, very low cost, and providing this comprehensive perspective of the food waste situation, as we call it. So how is it built? In order to skip this manual recording, which was time consuming, we about a year and a half ago, we started to build an app. The app in itself has nothing crazy in itself, but the interesting twist is that this app is running on any generic device. So Android for now, moving to iOS as well. But any phone, like my phone or any tablet, could be used at each of those recording points, and then the phone or the tablet are being used as data entry point. through 5 clicks, the kitchen employees record their waste. So typically they will go from the location is already automated. They will go from, okay, this is, let's say, kitchen A. Is it breakfast, lunch, or dinner? So let's say it's breakfast. Then what are they doing? They are, let's say they're cutting fruits and they are in the commissary. So they will choose preparation waste. Then we categorize the type of items into 7 key types in order to save on all the preparatory work, save on all the, I would say, time-consuming aspect of entering, costing of each ingredient and the costing of each recipe. We wanted to move away from that because the big picture is almost never clear for anyone. So before zooming into the details of the ingredient, you first need to understand the big picture, and then you have time to zoom in. Once you enter the type, then you just enter the quantity that is wasted. So what requires in terms of equipment is just a scale and some containers. They click enter, and the information from recorded at each of those recording points is going straight to the software, cloud-based software that does all the analysis and the analytics. So several component dashboard that gives you the overview of your performance, that gives you in accumulated the amount of food that was not wasted, the quantity of carbon emission equivalent, an overview of what type of food items are you wasting the most, as well as the breakdown out of the different recording points, what percentage of your entire food waste are your different recording points representing. And then you have some functionalities that is much more data-driven and that we are very excited to further dig and explore with data scientists, is to see what sort of additional information can we unearth from all this data. Currently, we can zoom in and have, for instance, perspective that is either per location, or that could be per shift, because especially in the hospitality sector and as well in the restaurant sector, your breakfast is not the same as your lunch or as your dinner. Or from a reason perspective, as in like, what are the quantities of food that are wasted either at the spoilage level, preparation, coming back from the buffet, or coming back from the customer, in order to identify at which stage do you actually waste most. An important component to share with you is that the baseline is just fundamental. The baseline is as most of the users do not know where they're starting from. We usually take 1 to 2 weeks to establish that baseline. And once you have that baseline, you keep on tracking your food waste to see day by day or shift by shift, what is your level of food waste per cover, because you need to have a ratio per number of people that are eating. So that's the key indicator, food waste per cover. And if you are below the baseline, then this is an equivalent of food that was not wasted compared to before the level that you were at before. So that may sound very, I would say trivial for some, but it is actually much more complex than we may think, and there are so many ways to tweak or show or reflect just a small aspect of your operation in order to report on your food waste and say, oh yeah, we're only wasting whatever 30 grams per cover. But the importance of an aligned methodology in order to have comparable data is super important. And another aspect that we're currently working on, which I think that may be of interest to some of you, is establishing a solid benchmarking system that could then be used as an industry standard, depending on the segment, depending on the location. Typically, because we have had this sort of reaction in the past, which was pretty puzzling again, when reporting, for instance, the first data to some professional, and we're saying, hey guys, you're wasting around 1 kilo of food per cover that you actually sell. And the reaction from those guys were not like, oh my God, this is absolutely insane, the amount of food that goes to the bin. Their first reaction was like, is that a lot? Meaning like, is that a lot compared to the other guys? So there is a lot of efforts and I would say opportunities that lay into establishing this sort of benchmarking system, we are looking for partners to work on that, which has great potential, including for the users to identify, okay, am I on the top tier or am I really lagging behind? We're happy to have received as well this recognition by the Solar Impulse Foundation recently. I will not show you the video because my computer is not happy with playing those videos. But I suggest if you're curious, I will share this the link at a later stage. So that's on the technology side. Now moving on to the pledge on food waste. The pledge on food waste is a benchmarking and certification design system that is designed to cut on food waste, save on costs, and then nurture the ecosystem of food waste solution providers. So it helps to tackle four of the SDGs, and has been designed in particular for restaurants of hotels or canteens. In a nutshell, we were trying to identify what sort of system can be designed to have some sort of a guideline, sort of step-by-step guideline in order to have all the right conditions in place for a restaurant to minimize food waste as much as possible. So we have in this system 95 criteria in this certification that are articulated around 7 key pillars. The first one is pretty standard, is process documentation, as in like, okay, what is the policy? What are the KPIs? What are the reporting system? Basically the direction that the organization is willing to take. The second pillar is about employee commitment, because if you don't get your team on board, again, the result that you're going to achieve are not going to be up to the expectations. Third pillar is around food waste monitoring. Is the restaurant monitoring food waste? There are specific requirements about, there must be an ongoing food waste monitoring system that covers at least the back of house, so the kitchen and the front of house, whatever comes back from the customer, and has to be kept in a digital format, whatever system is being used. Some do it manually, some would use other type of food waste monitoring system that are not the one I presented to you. This is pretty open. Then you have 2 specific pillars that are related really to procedures. So what procedures, many of those procedures are already in place in restaurant or hotels, and especially if they are well established or belong to international groups. But what is interesting is that very often they may have those procedures, but those procedures are not necessarily reinforced. So here the idea is, with those 2 pillars, again, you cover each steps that food is going through from the moment the food is purchased, the moment then the food arrives at the back of house, the moment it is dispatched in the different location, the way it is stored, the way it is forecasted, how it is prepared with a mise en place, etc., how it is presented to the customer. So each of those steps have specific procedures that are kind of, that the pledger, as we call it, have to show compliance with, and that helps to tighten the screw at each of those steps where food is potentially lost or wasted. And then you have 2 components which I found especially interesting. The first one is customer engagement. So there are certain criteria related to how the organization can engage diners into reducing, into being more conscious or cautious when they are eating, not with an approach that is finger pointing or punishing, like getting your customers to pay extra if they leave food on their plate, but more using nudging techniques and utilizing the different touch points that exist between the restaurant and their diners in order to share what the restaurant has been doing at the back of house to anticipate and prevent food waste at the first place. And this message being conveyed to the customers has an influence on how the customer would like to perceive their own selves and how they would like to behave when they are eating in this sort of restaurants that are implementing all the preventive measures in place. The last component that is related to it is, okay, once the restaurant has implemented all the preventive measures in place, they don't go to zero. They don't have zero organic waste. That's just not possible. So we are following the food waste pyramid that present the priority actions that should be considered before sending food to the bin. We are focusing on the preventive side. Then what else can they do? So once they have minimized as much internally, then can they do they have surplus food that can be redistributed? So that's how they start to connect with the ecosystem of food waste solution providers. Typically, is there any app that they can work with to facilitate the sale of surplus food at a discounted rate? Can they redistribute some of those edible food for charity? If not, they're moving down one notch. And then it's about, okay, organic waste that is no longer safe, can it be used to feed animal when it is technically possible? And in particular, animals that are entering the human food chain, so chicken, pigs, fish. Or can it be used to be transformed through now insect farms, where insects are being harvested and used either as animal feed or soon to be, and it's happening already, as protein for human consumption? If not, can this food waste be transformed as waste to compost or waste to energy using technologies that are already existing? So those 95 criteria help to have a systematic approach and a holistic approach to food waste for the restaurants, with the benefit again of cutting food waste, cutting on costs associated with this. And there is one tweak that is another benefit, is that after the audit is happening by a third-party verification system, so the auditor will review the level of compliance on the online platform, they will receive a final result. If they have less than 70 points, they are not certified. And then they have different levels that are pretty, I would say this is a pretty standard system in a sense. If you reach 80, you are moving from bronze to silver, silver to gold, and gold to all-star. So they can use this as well, not only to promote their commitment, but it is pretty handy as well for restaurant groups or catering companies or hotel groups to identify out of their network of different restaurants which one are performing well or which one are performing poorly according to the same methodology, and that is verified by a third party. So that's where the benchmarking system is kicking in, and that makes it quite interesting. If we zoom out and look at it from, let's say, more a government level perspective or a bird eye view perspective, what the pledge is actually doing is helping to become an aggregator of food waste solution providers. As I mentioned, the fact that they are criteria that are related to, once you have minimized food waste, what else can you do with what remains, will invite the adopters to turn to the local ecosystem and look at who is providing what sort of solutions. So I mentioned the app for the redistribution. I mentioned there are different type of solutions for monitoring of food waste, or smart storage systems, or biodigesters that would be as well interested in working with those pledgers. The benefit for the pledgers for them is to get additional points. Of course, for the ecosystem of solution providers, the benefit is to get a foot in the door and get a chance to work with new type of partners. The other type of service solution providers, typically what we do or other guys are doing in terms of training or consulting or charity that are providing services to redistribute. And the last one is the one I mentioned with the insect farm, etc., or traditional pig farms or other animal farms that are interested in collecting those organic waste. I'll skip that video as well. And the last component is related to capacity building and consulting. On the capacity building side, what happened, and I'm guessing, I'm hoping that some of the people in the audience are entrepreneur as well, and impact entrepreneur. What happened about a year, well, just at the beginning of COVID, we got a gigantic slap in the face because our, at the time, 6.5 years of work was compromised because of COVID. So from one day to the next, our model, which was to combine all those solutions, going on site and work with our partners in their facilities, usually with a squad of 3 to 5 consultants staying on site to review all the operation, procedures, implementing the system, and training the team was suddenly not possible. So we were just done with the first phase of the implementation of our food waste prevention program with the Grand Hyatt in Singapore. 2 days after we left, we learned that they had their first case of COVID, and that was just the beginning of that entire, I would say, collapse of the industry. So for us, 90% of our customers shut down or were temporarily closing their operation. So we had to do a massive pivot in our services, and from within 30 days, we managed to condense everything that we had learned. It was something that we had on the back burner, but the conditions just like forced us to finally, make it happen. And we have been structuring all of our knowledge into technical workshops that we're aiming at professionals that were keen to really take a deep dive into the topic of food waste. So two main components. This is an overview of the what we call like standalone modules. So as you can see, they are all around food waste, where we identify specific angles that may be of interest to professionals in the industry. Some that are around food waste monitoring system, some that are around the delicate art of communication around food waste, some that are about how do you engage diners in food waste prevention, or how do you engage your team in food waste prevention, and some that are directly related to building capacity of professionals that want to become accredited consultant for the pledge on food waste, which I have no slide on this one, but which became very successful over the past 12 months, where we now have 15 accredited consultants in about 10 countries. And that's something that happened that wouldn't have happened if COVID didn't strike us, where those consultants are based in as far as Canada and the US, India, Sri Lanka, UK, France, and now Mauritius, Kenya, or Morocco, or Ivory Coast, which is like completely scattered around. But those guys are being trained on how to, well, of course, the requirements of the pledge, but how can they integrate the pledge in their portfolio of solutions, and being able to replicate the model in their own location, and being able to offer this sort of solutions, and of course being paid for their support, while they are reaching out to their local market, let's say of restaurants or hotels or catering companies. So that was a shift in the model that is extremely interesting as well in terms of impact. How can you take a model, tweak it a bit, adapt it a bit, and those consultants, of course, know much better than we do what are the requirements of the specificities of their own market, and we'll be able to adapt the solution using that the frame is there, but how you implement that frame is really what makes the difference between a one-size-fits-all and something that is contextualized. So so that was a bit of a digression, but that's still part of the capacity building and the new type of partnership and business ventures that we started recently. We have one accredited consultant as one in Singapore, but it's a very new I would say horizon for us. What was super interesting is to see that our capacity, our workshop typically became very much relevant as well for other type of people that we didn't expect at the beginning. So we have been training master students from, as Larissa was presenting earlier, from business schools in Italy, from culinary schools in Paris. We had a chance to train as well 17 lecturers from Republic Polytechnique. That was last year, on our 5 times 3 hours, so 15 hours of live workshop on food waste prevention, helping us to bridge the gap between knowledge that was acquired firsthand on the B2B sort of context, extracting that knowledge and being able to convey it as an educational piece, and hopefully accelerate the transition by influencing perspective of students and lecturers alike on the topic of food and food waste in particular. So all this, I will of course not play that video, and I would like to conclude with some case studies that I think are interesting. There's an example of JW Marriott that we worked with over something like 18 months. Phenomenal results. We had a reduction of food waste by around 31% in food waste per cover, representing around 108 tons of food that was not wasted, 270 tons of carbon emission equivalent. So very, very substantial results for the largest hotel group. I mean, one hotel, the largest hotel group in Bangkok. In the same vein, but slightly different context, we were extremely proud to be able to design and implement the first ever zero food waste to landfill Michelin star revelation event. So we've been working with the Michelin star, the Michelin guide, to run this event with a clear focus of zero food waste to the landfill. How did we do that? We have been working closely prior to the event with not only the star chef that would be involved during the implementation or during the event, cook during the event, but as well with the venue. And we have been partnering with SOS, Color of Sustenance, which is a food rescue organization in Thailand, to be those partners that would collect the food surplus. But in a nutshell, we have been trying to have all the preventive measures in place to ensure that there was no unnecessary food being wasted. All the food that was produced in overproduced, so surplus food that was overproduced but not served to the customers was collected in a safe environment by my team and the SOS team to then be redistributed. So in total, there was 62 kilos out of just one day that was captured and donated when it was still edible. All the rest was captured, clearly segregated from any other waste to be sent to pig farms. And so there was 220 kilos of Michelin star chef cooked sort of food that was fed to the pigs, the happiest pigs on planet Earth. And total impact was as well 704 kilos of carbon emission that was not emitted. So this is interesting as well because it is for two reasons: the partnership with such a highly regarded brand organization such as the Michelin Guide, but as well the fact that this sort of initiative could be embedded in something as high-end, glamorous as the Michelin star revelation, to start tweaking the way we can run something that is super high-end, super nicely designed, but have a twist of positivity and mindfulness, and showing that with the right anticipation, there are some nice results that can come out of it. And finally, just to conclude my presentation, this is just an overview of a project that we have been running with the Thai government, where we designed food waste prevention program. So that was between 2016, I think, to 2019, roughly. We worked in total with 10 or 12 different hotels, and we have been extracting kind of the key performance indicators for this sort of project, where the government was basically providing subsidies for hotels willing to implement food waste prevention program, verifying that before sending the money, verifying that certain areas were actually in compliance, typically the amount of food that was minimized, and implementation of new procedures and training of the team. And this is the sort of result that we achieved. And directly linked to it, I'm very excited to share with you that we launched about 2 weeks ago a very ambitious program with Mauritius Island, where we are working with the donor agency is a government agency. We're working with Business Mauritius, and we identified 10 pilots that will go, that started the process of 6 months. We are training them on implementing, awareness raising first, then implementing food waste monitoring system in their kitchen, and being trained on the requirements of the pledge on food waste, And those 10 pilots are being accompanied by 3 local consultants that became accredited consultant for the pledge, plus some other accredited consultants. So each of the consultants have 1 pilot that they will accompany throughout the process until the end of the project in December, with well, similar sort of KPIs that we'll be tracking to really see what sort of impact can we have with this sort of new model. So that's it on my side. I'm being cautious of the time, and I would really want to keep some time for the Q&A.
Okay, thank you so much, Benjamin, for insightful sharing, and we hope that has inspired you to explore more exciting and impactful opportunities for good. Now, without further ado, Benjamin, may I trouble you to stop sharing your screen?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. So now we will go on to the Q&A segment. Okay. Just a moment. Okay. We have a question from Anna. Thank you for sharing. Could you elaborate more on 260 million opportunities in the awareness of food waste, please? What are some examples of industry that address awareness of food waste? And what are some of the investors for such similarly public good? Thank you.
I wouldn't be able to answer really that question, Anna. What I encourage you to do is to have a look at the BCG report that is segmenting those $700 billion opportunity report. I could share with you the link. What has been done is here estimating what could be the impact in terms of savings, or in terms of financial impact, breaking down into those 5 different categories. And awareness raising was identified as the most promising one. However, I don't have the detail of the methodology. The other example that I can share with you directly related to that is what I just presented just before, as in, like, we systematically include awareness raising in implementing solutions. So in the context of hospitality industry, if every industry that deal with food was exposed to proper awareness raising, I would say workshop or trainings, we would see already a reduction in the amount of food being wasted. I'm absolutely positive. So I'm guessing this is a similar approach in that case, but I'm not the author of that study, but I would be very pleased to share the link for you to read.
Thank you. Another question from Jack. How much will it cost for restaurants to redirect the organic waste?
Sometimes it depends on the context. It's a bit broad. There are some locations such as Thailand where actually hotels would have a deal with pig farms, where actually the pig farms are paying to collecting the organic waste, and because this is raw material that is useful for their own business, which is feeding their pigs, for instance. There are other locations where typically Singapore, where hotel operators, restaurant operators are actually paying a double bill, because they're paying for the cost of food waste within their operation, plus they are paying for the disposal of their organic waste by professionals. So this is too difficult to answer that question in a simple way. Depends on the context. It depends on the volume, and on the legislation that is applicable.
A question from Alagu Vignesh. Sorry if I mispronounce it. You briefly talked about how, excuse me, how restaurants and hotels were unaware of whether the food waste was considered high. With such little understanding about the issue of food waste, how do you think restaurants would take such solution, and how would they benefit from taking up such solution? Where does 5 to 14% food saving come from? Is it from ordering less food in the future?
Yes, So I'm gonna answer starting from the end of the question. I didn't mention 5 to 14% of savings. I said that the cost of food waste represented 5 to 14% of their revenue. So that is the cost of food waste compared to the total revenue generated. The savings typically that restaurants and hotels experience is 3 to 5% reduction in cost per cover. That's one of the metrics. So cost per cover being like total food purchase divided by number of covers that are actually being sold. The other metric that we would be tracking would be quantity of food waste per cover, which is between 25 to 35% reduction. So indeed, the financial benefits are directly related to, can you provide the same quality and the same quantity of covers that could be sold, purchasing less, because you're actually wasting so much in the process. So yes, to make it short, that's the rationale behind.
Okay, thank you. And Britta would like to ask, what is the most difficult challenge that hotels and restaurants face in trying to reduce food waste?
Well, the first and most important challenge is denial. Is that no food waste monitoring system means that many try to bury their head in the sand, sorry, and many, especially those franchise or those franchise would prefer not to rock the boat. So because we are bringing transparency, we are bringing new metrics, we are bringing figures that are not only like amount of food waste or carbon emission, but as well like financial details about what is the cost of food waste and what are the loss opportunity. This is usually coming as a shock because this sort of calculation were not performed before. So that's the first biggest hurdle we're facing, is a psychological hurdle that people in the industry do not realize how much they're wasting because they don't track it. And as they don't realize how much they're wasting, they believe it's a marginal cost. But then, what are the main hurdle inside? Let's say once the restaurant or the hotel has accepted, okay, there is an issue, we should do something. It's to me, I would turn it into what are the success factors. Clear direction and support from the top management and or the owners. That would provide a clear message to the team that this is something that now is not good to have, but must have. So buying by employees is fundamental. There's always those questions of, yeah, but people are not interested and they won't do it. It's a waste of time. It's very interesting to see how you can, once again, you start with the why, to see how much buying you can get from people that their management would believe would never be on board. But it's simply because it was never introduced in a way that resonates with them. So buying from employees is absolutely fundamental, and the rest is about adjusting procedures and reinforcing new procedures to ensure that each steps where food is potentially wasted are better controlled.
Okay. And Elizabeth would like to know that one of the 7 pillars of the pledge is food preparation and offering. You mentioned that includes ideating ways of serving food such that food waste is minimized. Could you share more on this topic or possible solutions, especially for food served as takeaway or delivery, sorry.
Yeah, well, they are all those 2 pillars, 4 and 5, are again related to what should be the preventive measures or procedures or standard operating procedures that should be in place or reinforced if they are already there, but not reinforced, to minimize food waste. So, for instance, if you have some issue with storage, the issue of food waste can be related to the calibration of your equipment. So it displays 5 degrees when actually it's 8 degrees in your fridge. Could be related to labeling issue. That could be related to procedures to rotate your stock. FIFO, first in, first out, are not reinforced. That could be related to an freezing practice of surplus food, but actually never goes back into being served to customers or being consumed. Preparation level are related to awareness, knife skills. Typically, are people knife skills reinforced? So typically, how do you learn to make the most of the raw product, to ensure that there is a minimum that is wasted when you cut off the skin or when you do the fillet of the fish or whatever? Are there any procedures to rethink about all those offcuts? Can they be useful ingredients to be transformed and use in new recipe? When it comes to engaging customers, it's more about like what is the portion size, the popularity of items presented in the menu, reassessed and reevaluated regularly. So that means communication with the front and the back, like the service team and the kitchen team. Are the production charts reinforced to ensure that the anticipation of the volume of food that needs to be prepared is commensurate with the actual number of people? Is there any adjustment during the service to ensure that if you have big bulk of your expected diners coming in, do you adjust the quantity that are then on display on the buffet? Those are all like, a compilation of all those preventive measures that down the line are helping to have much more lean operation and less wasteful one. When it comes to delivery, it's a bit different. It's a bit of a different ballgame because you don't have this feedback from your customers in terms of, is it popular? Is it too big? Is it too small? Do they leave some on their plate? How much is that? Why? So this is, I would say, the blank, the blind spot for restaurants and other organizations that are mainly relying on food delivery. So I can't be more specific than that.
Okay, due to time constraint, we will take one last question from Kelvin. What's your advice to first-time F&B entrepreneurs to incorporate food waste prevention in their operations from the get-go? Will this incur an additional setup cost for the entrepreneurs?
So entrepreneurs, for instance, that are opening a restaurant or intrapreneurs, if we are those that are opening their own businesses, there are loads of different simple ways to incorporate food waste prevention. But it's first a question of mindset. Is like the team that you get on board, because I'm guessing that wouldn't be a one person's job. Team you're getting on board must be trained on first understanding why is that so important. That they see that you as let's say you're the boss, pay attention to that, and that you track and monitor this will force them to be very cautious, that you have some imaginative ways to reinvent recipes, to aim for zero food waste dishes, for instance. If this is embedded in the company's culture, then you can actually be much more profitable than standard way of running a restaurant. So this is first a question of mindset, then a question of procedures that are reinforced or not, and then a bit of technology. So typically, for instance, our technology is free of use for the first 45 days. So you can see and track if it is working or not for you. Doesn't require any heavy investment in equipment. Or there could be more holistic solutions such as the pledge, where you get access to those 95 criteria and get a systematic approach to your operations.
Thank you, Benjamin, for your answer. And thank you everyone for sending in your questions. If your question is not answered, don't worry, we'll compile it together with the answers and send you by email. It has been a very insightful discussion, and I hope everyone has gotten the chance to learn more about food sustainability space. We hope that you enjoyed the session today. If you are interested and influenced by our sharing today and want to create social impact in food sustainability space, I urge you to participate in our Food Sustainability Challenge. This challenge is an open call for ideas and pitches for creative solutions to food sustainability. There are attractive prizes to be won, such as seed money and opportunities to receive incubation support for up to 6 months. For more details on our Food Sustainability Challenge and registration process, please do scan the QR code over here, or alternatively, our bit.ly link on the slide. With that, I would like to remind everyone again to follow us on our social media. And thank you once again, Benjamin from LightBlue, for joining us. And thank you, our viewer today, for being attentive participants tonight. We hope to see you again for our next webinar.
Larissa, if I may just say like one last word.
Yes.
We are currently looking for an executive trainee in Singapore. to join our operation. So if any of the viewers or attendees of today are interested, this is directly on lightblueconsulting.com/careers, where we have a different position available. So hopefully some of you may be interested.
That's great. As you heard, LightBlue is such a great company. Okay, thank you, Benjamin. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good evening.